Thanks for joining us today for the professional development session on essential chemistry, part one of two. Today, we're looking at the program components. So that's what you'll find either on education at pasco.com when you log into your books or when you go to Portal and log into your books that way. So we're looking at all the features available, not only in the textbooks, but also what's available extra beyond essential chemistry on the Pasco website and in Portal. So again, part one, first we're going to talk about the resources available to you and focus on the book and the content in the book, everything that's interactive in the book and digital resources. Part two, another 90-minute session, will focus on the hands-on investigation with Pasco equipment, including SparkView software. And encourage you to attend part two if you've bought the equipment kit that goes along with the curriculum. You might find it useful even if you don't have the equipment, if you're looking at sensors and wondering, is this for me? Is this something that I want to integrate into my curriculum? You can look at other free professional development sessions available to you for going to go to pasco.com/training, and I put that link in the chat. It's available to you in there. All right, so what I'm sharing with you today, all I've got to share is this presentation. So if you did go to that link there, I'm going to post that into the chat. What you'll find in there is just this presentation, because I'm assuming that you're here because you've adopted or purchased essential chemistry curriculum, or you have found that you have access to it through Portal. So that the everything that I'm showing, the assignments, the test bank, and all of that is available to you with your essential chemistry purchase. So again, all that's in there, and that link is this presentation. Here's what's in the essential chemistry program. So the textbook. First of all, there is a print version of the student textbook available, as well as the digital copy, and a print and digital version of the lab manual. So when you purchase essential chemistry for student or teacher, the lab manual is included, and there are over 70 labs included in that lab manual, and they're a mix of traditional and sensor-based. So even if you didn't buy the print version of the lab manual and you weren't planning on using SparkView or sensors, you can still do the many of the labs that are in that lab book. Some of them are just traditional without any software or anything, like, for example, finding the percent composition of a compound. That's a lab in there that doesn't need to use sensors. Or there are sensor-based investigations, I'm sorry, software-based investigations that don't use sensors, and I'll show you one of those today. And SparkView software is included with your essential chemistry adoption. So that'll be interesting for those of you. You can see what labs you can do without sensors. Included also, besides the lab, and if you adopted the lab equipment as well, the lab manual supports all of the use of all of these sensors, and it comes with a molecular modeling set and periodic table as well. A lot of folks will ask me, I'm pointing to that right there, that's a distiller, and we're not going to get into labs with that today in part two, but anyway, let's go back to the textbook content and what's in Portal and online for part one here. So Pasco Chemistry Academy, I'll be spending a little bit of time talking about that towards the end of our session today. And what this is a program that we developed during the pandemic when we recognized that teachers were not able to be live with their students in the lab, but we still wanted students and teachers to have that lab experience together. So we created this curriculum around the labs that are aligned perfectly, and our essential chemistry labs and topics that are cover an entire year of lab work in essential chemistry. So again, here's another way to do labs without having the sensors, because we share the sample data, and I'll talk more about that later on today in the session. SparkView software again is included, whether or not you adopted these sensors, whether or not you adopted the equipment, and also the teacher ebook manual and lab manual. Those are included with a Portal subscription, and I keep talking about Portal, and I'll get to a Portal slide in a second to talk more about that. Some of you with me today are Portal subscribers. Some of you are not. Some of you are essential chemistry adopters, and some of you are not. But if you are a portal subscriber, the teacher edition of not only essential chemistry, but also essential physics are available to you, plus the lab manual for essential chemistry. That's if with a portal subscription across the board. The test bank is also included with a portal subscription and also with the essential chemistry program adoption, comes along with teacher resources. And it says infinite test bank because the questions that are quantitative, the numeric based questions, almost all of them regenerate the values for the prompt, the question prompt, and also the question choices. And I'll demonstrate that today. How does that work? That works for the tests and the quizzes in the essential chemistry program. Okay, so what is essential chemistry? What makes this special? Well, let me give you an overview of a lesson. I think that not all lessons are like 11.1, but I like picking chapter 11, lesson 1 to show it has a really good swath, a good sample of the kinds of things that pop up throughout the chemistry textbook all in one lesson here. So let's say that you're at the semester break. Usually that's where I got to polarity and bonding. It would be second semester. So let's say that you're starting off a lesson there in the middle of the school year. And you've assigned students just 2 pages of reading from chapter 11 out of their digital book. So they've read the first couple pages in that chapter. So maybe they have a little background. Maybe they don't remember a thing that they read in that chat in those first 2 pages. That's okay because we have some supporting materials for students to gain new knowledge and experiences by integrating things like inquiry questions in our labs and inquiry questions in our lesson plans. Let me jump in real quick and show you where a teacher would find that. So here is, I'm going to show not only how to get to the resources from Portal, but also if you're a non-Portal subscriber, how to get there from the website education.pasco.com. So here is a Portal login. Maybe you get to Portal through your school district app that like for your SS single sign-on app, like Clever or ClassLink. Maybe you have a Google Classroom. Maybe you get in there with your Canvas or your Blackboard. But I'm going to log in with email because I am not currently a classroom teacher and I don't have an LMS to show you or learning management system like Canvas to show you. So another way to get in to Portal is to just log in with your email address with your account. So I've landed here on the dashboard. This is like the home in your Portal. And you can see that I've got a bunch of content here. The first time you log into Portal, this is going to be all blank. But I've got some resources that I pinned for quick access because I know that I've pinned them because I know that today I'm going to cover these things and I want them easy to get to. And when I'm done with them, I can unpin them and move them down into favorites or somewhere else. I've got some recently viewed items here, things I clicked show up here most recently, and then I can clear them if it gets to be overwhelming, if there's too many. Suggested resources based on not only my preferences, which I can set in my Portal account, but also from what I've been viewing. And then the favorite section. I might look at things that I'm considering doing in my classroom, looking at the essential chemistry curriculum and favorite them so that I can easily come back and evaluate them. Or maybe I know that my next lesson's coming up, I want to do lab X, Y, or Z. I can favorite them and quickly get them here. And at the very bottom of here is continuing education. If you would like even deeper training in essential chemistry and essential physics because we only have an hour and a half today, and you want some more, here are 5+ hour lesson total for the entire curriculum to A to Z, not only learning about the curriculum itself, but also more on labs. And that is at the end of that, when you complete that, there is a certificate. So you can also see some more links that I can set up here on the right, but this is all in Portal. And don't worry if you're not a Portal subscriber, it will show education.pasco.com, the other way to get to the curriculum. So I said that I will show how do you start a lesson, for example, lesson 11.1. Let me go to the menu here. And I can get to the textbooks, either student or teacher, by going to menu and curriculum and PASCO Essential Science. And it opens up on physics and chemistry. So portal subscribers, you have both of these available to you. We're looking at chemistry, and the student availability of student content is only there by subscription, but teacher is included in your portal subscription. I'm going to launch the student ebook, so my account has a subscription to the student ebook. And if you are logging in through education.pasco.com, that's actually the web link up here, education.pasco.com. It goes to the same place as if you had a web account. So now I'm going to zoom in so you can see this a little better. So I'm a student looking at the student book. My teacher assigned me chapter 11.1. Let me go to the book link. And in the book, I want to navigate to chapter 11. And let me zoom back out so you can see. Here I am at the beginning of chapter 11. And the first 2 pages. So here's this page here, the beginning of the chapter, that's giving me some phenomena, some content about what's coming up in the chapter. Maybe it ties in what's coming up with what you've already learned in a non-technical way. It's a phenomena-based discussion. Students can go past that chapter guide and then read this page, changing state. So maybe they're reading this page and they see the diagrams. They can hover over the diagrams and it gives them a description of what it is if they're not sure what's happening in there. And then they read this second page and then they see this interactive simulation button. That's interesting. So the teacher then, let me go back to my slide. Okay, so the teacher assigned 2 pages in chapter 11. Then the teacher starts the lesson. Hey, why do you sweat? Why does perspiring, why does sweating make you feel cooler? Why does that happen? How is cooling related to molecules and the properties you've learned about molecules and other molecular properties that we're going to learn about? So that's a question that, you get students engaged, and that question is presented in the lab that goes with the lesson. So the teacher can come across that and decide, oh, I'm going to start my lesson with that. I like that question. Or maybe they look in the lesson plan and they see that question in there and they want to share that question with their students. And that lesson plan is including the teacher materials. So then they open up the slide presentation that comes with the teacher materials. And that first slide in every lesson has a editable slide presentation. And the first slide is always a assessment of prior knowledge. Just always a few questions to see where are students at when you begin the lesson, so that maybe I don't need to spend so much time on the first bulleted item, but I need to spend a lot more time on that second bullet item. That's a thing that they're supposed to know, but I don't hear the answer coming with fully formed knowledge there. So I'm going to focus more on that second bullet in my the slide that comes with the lesson. Then students will complete the simulation, boiling point, polar, and non-polar. So what that looks like, here's the textbook again. Oops. Not on one. There's that simulation, boiling point, polar, and non-polar. So students can be given an assignment called boiling point, polar, and non-polar. So I'm in the portal now. I'm in lesson 11.1. And in the assignments, the teacher can assign this item, boiling point, polar, and non-polar. And right now I'm clicking the preview of what this looks like. So here's a preview of the simulation. And then here is the worksheet that goes along with that simulation, boiling point, polar, and non-polar. So teachers can preview the assignment in Portal. And what students will see is when they read the directions for that assignment, it tells them to go to page 347 in the ebook, or they can go to chapter 11 and go to the interactive button and find it there, boiling point, polar, and non-polar. And when they open that simulation, they see what was previewed in Portal. They follow the directions on that worksheet. They play around. They see what happens when they add energy, and they watch a liquid form gas. They watch why does it get how does evaporation, or rather boiling or evaporation, happen, depending on what you're looking at. For a polar substance, compared to nonpolar. How much heat do I have to put in to get the nonpolar? Oh, it's already going into the gas phase without me even adding any extra heat if it's nonpolar. And if I add more heat, it more easily goes into gas. Again, let me look at polar again. Am I seeing things? Nope, it definitely started off with only one particle going to gas, and I had to add a lot more heat to get as many gas particles as I did with. So this is an example of creating knowledge that might not have been there. So that's, again, just the beginning of a lesson. Then after students complete that simulation, maybe they do the lab, the evaporative cooling lab. So this is one of those labs that has both a sensor-based and non-sensor-based component to it. So the beginning of this lab, 11A evaporative cooling, students get a cotton ball and wipe some water on their forearm and notice the temperature change there. Then they go to their other forearm and then they use isopropyl alcohol and do the same. And so they get this qualitative experience of, oh, wow, it's much colder on the isopropyl side. Why is that? What does it have to do with the properties of the molecule? And then after that qualitative discovery, then they do a quantitative study with sensor-based temperature activity, which actually we're going to do in part 2, session part 2 today, is this lab, evaporative cooling. Then after they finish the lab, they can use the molecular viewer to enhance or understand more about what they just experienced in the lab and what they just measured in the lab. So let's go back and see what that means. What is a molecule viewer? What does that look like? So in the interactives throughout the book, you'll see some chemical names, glucose, water, or ice, and that will bring up the molecule viewer when you see a chemical name. What is a molecule viewer? It's a simulation that shows the molecule. And here's water as ice. But we were talking about a lab where students use water and isopropyl alcohol. So let's look at isopropyl alcohol. And there's the molecule, which I can use my mouse, or on a touch screen, I can single and double finger move my molecule around. I can use a mouse. I can zoom in and zoom out with a scroll wheel, or with my fingers using a digital touch screen. I can change the view of this molecule from ball and stick to space fill, so I get a real idea of the real shape of this molecule in 3-dimensional space, because molecules are not balls and sticks in reality. They make these shapes, and they also have these regions of charge around them. So when you turn on the charge surface, now we can see the distribution of charge. If it's gray, it's neutral. It's neither positive nor negative. If it's red, it's positive. And if it's blue, it's negative. And students can see that isopropyl alcohol has a lot of neutral region on the molecule and then some polarity up here near the oxygen. But when you look at the water molecule and you look at the charge surface on the water molecule, doesn't want to run today. My internet is, try that one. Okay, it's not cooperating with me today, but you can also compare water and acetone, which is the third substance they use in the lab, to look and see what your predictions are about the behavior, or what understanding you come to about the behavior of the molecule and the properties and regions of charge distribution around the molecule. So going back to the PowerPoint here, let's talk more about the book and what the structure is. So that was just a quick overview of what can the book look like? What can a lesson look like? So the book is divided into 8 units, and here are this is the traditional topics traditionally found in chemistry, with more of an integrated nature, like you saw in that lesson we looked at, the idea of charge distribution, and the lesson goes into energy and larger cross-cutting concepts. This is it's a good transition to 3-dimensional learning here, because we have all of the traditional topics presented in a 3-dimensional way. So at the end of Unit 1, that's at the end of Chapter 4, you'll find a 3-dimensional assessment where all of the content that was covered in 1, 2, 3, and 4 is assessed not only with the content knowledge, but also the cross-cutting concepts and science and engineering practices in an assessment at the end of that unit. And the same at the end of Unit 2, at the end of Chapter 8, and the end of Chapter 10, and so on. The unit assessments help you assess students' understanding of the content and the cross-cutting concepts and science and engineering practices. So this book is it's hefty. It's got over 800 pages. You see, there are 24 chapters, and you don't have to cover them all for it to make sense to students. It's not. It does make more sense if you go in order to students, but students are able to make sense if you skip a page or two. For example, if you're non-honors, you might not do the bond energy page. With calculations, you would skip that page and the next page would still make sense for those students who skip that page. So if you have the print book, let me switch the camera to the print book. If you have the print book, whoops, it looks like it's upside down, but so that is page 144 in the print book. If you go to the textbook and go to page 144, it's the same. So the page numbers align. It's easy for students to forget their textbook in the classroom, or maybe you only have a class set of textbooks. Either way, they'll be okay because the page numbers are the same, and they can get that digital book online if you assign homework out of the textbook. I showed you getting to the student ebook through Portal, but Portal is only teachers see Portal. Students are not going to see Portal ever. So what students see is what I've been showing you, the book. So this is what students will see. They're never going to see Portal. And how do they get there if they can't see Portal? Well, there's a few ways that students get to the ebook. This teacher can share the ebook from Portal, and let me go back to Portal and show how that happens. So here I'm in Portal. I'm going to go back to the I'm in the viewer right now, so I'm in preview mode, so I need to exit that to get back to Portal. So now I'm in Portal itself. Remember, here's where I started. It was the dashboard. Remember, I went to menu, and I went to curriculum, and I went to PASCO Essential Science, and then I went to Essential Chemistry. So when I'm here on this page, if I've subscribed to Portal and I've also got the additional license for students, I can click the share link for student ebook button and then send that out to my students. However I do that, either through email or through my Canvas or whatever, Google Classroom, whatever system that you have. And you share the link out to students that way. And then when students click that link, they will get a link to the ebook that goes here to that home page. So Portal or not, student book is going to look like this. Okay. And how else? So there's that's one way you get the ebook to students. Here's another way to get ebook to students. So that was that. When you click that share link to students, the reason why I didn't click it is because it would have put a code up there, or a link rather, that you could go to. So here's what it looks like when you click that share link to student ebook. It brings up a pop-up and it says copy link here, and you can just click the copy button and send that out. Again, that's when you have the Portal and the ebook license. The other way that you can share, or the way that you can get the ebook to students, is you go to education.pasco.com. So this is for those without a Portal subscription. You can go to the website, education.pasco.com, and that takes you to, let me bring up a different window here. That takes you here. And so when you go to education.pasco.com, you see that there's physics and chemistry, but it's like, put your code in, enter your code. So whether you're a student or teacher, you can get to the book here. Your code is either assigned as a student or a teacher. You put your code in there, you paste it in. It's a 16+ digit code. And then you click go. And then once you put in your code and you click go from education.pasco.com, then it will take you to the textbook. That's not where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to the textbook. Sorry, 1 second here. It will take you to the book, to the home page again. So the student ebook you can get to it a couple different ways, the same with the teacher textbook. Okay. So when a student goes to that site and they see that homepage, so that orange screen, they don't ever have to put in that code again because it stores the cookie. The license is stored automatically in the browser. This is a browser-based ebook. And the license expires whenever the subscription runs out, and then that's when access ends. And if students ever, for whatever reason, somehow they clear cookies or whatever, or they deleted their browsing history, just send them the link again to put that cookie back in there so they don't have to keep re-logging in, and it should be automatic and easy for them to get to the book. All right, so again, if you have questions, just drop them in chat or question Q&A, and I will address them as we go. For more information on Portal, go to pasco.com/portal. I'm going to put that in the chat if that's something you're interested in. And let me spend a little bit more time in Portal right now to show you some advantages of Portal that you may not necessarily, you may not see in the education.pasco.com. For example, we support single sign-on. So if you know, if ClassLink or Clever is something that you've heard or you know about, or your SSO or single sign-on, or you have that district app button and it takes you automatically to all the applications that you use for your class, we support that. So if you know you're a Portal subscriber, but you don't have that, talk to your IT department, talk to your IT person, and have them work with us to make sure that that shows up and that you can log in. Or you have an app button, rather an icon to get to your book without having to do all the login and having to go to Portal or anything. You just double click the icon to get there. Also learning management support for Canvas, D2L Brightspace, Blackboard, Schoology, and if yours isn't listed there, contact us and see if we can get a setup. See if we can get it set up, see if we can support you. Or have your IT contact us to get you into the LMS. For example, there is, you might be wondering like, yeah, I know I've seen PASCO Portal on my account. I'm not sure what to do. Here is how to figure out what to do. Let me get to that help page. Whoops, I'll go back. So on your how to get to help, you can go to pasco.com. Oh, sorry, help.pasco.com. And this brings up help for all of the things. So software like SparkView, the ebooks, how do I use the ebook? Here's a link to help for that. And let me put that in the, I might as well put this link in the chat also. And portal help. So an additional beyond what you don't see here, more help here, like getting you to teacher support and chat and all of that. So when you go to PASCO Portal Help, you go to the instructor button and to see if that might help you out. Like if you have, how do I get stuff into my, how do I get these assignments and chapters into my Canvas? That's all here in the For Instructors help. You can also search and find content that way. How do I get, and it has directions for sharing, assigning resources down here. This is something that you're probably interested in if you are a PASCO Portal subscriber. Learning management systems, the last icon, and here's all of the systems that we have content on. And if you don't see your system here, then contact us and see if we can help you out. So Canvas, or contact your IT rather, and see if they can help you out. Check with them first, and then they can contact us. So here's an example of how it works in Canvas. You can click the modules to import entire chapters and all the content in the chapter. You could also download individual components, like maybe you don't want to use all the stuff that you see, but a few pieces, then you can download and bring into your class through file, the file option, and into existing modules into your course. So here's help on that. And when I'm showing you things in Portal, what you see on my screen, even though I'm logging in via email, it looks really similar to what you'll see in your LMS. So you can see, you've already seen something that looks like these pictures here. Okay, so that's for you. Also for your IT folks, here's information for admins so they can set you up with single sign-on or help make the connection with your LMS or your Canvas so that you can get the assignments and such into that system. Okay, so let me go back to, let me close this and let's go back to presentation. Okay. Let's get into the book. So you've seen this before. This is what students see when they go to the student book. They once they go into the book, they click the book link and then they're in the book. They might also click labs. They can click any of these things. Some of these go to the book, some of them go to the lab book. So let's look at the difference there. So here's the home landing page for the book. And on this screenshot here, let me zoom in a little bit. We can tell that we're in the book because it says text 8.1 right here, text. So that means you're in the textbook. If you're in the lab book, it wouldn't say text 8.1, it would say lab up here. So that's how you can tell whether you're in the textbook or the lab book. Okay, so this is section 8.1, stoichiometry, the beginning of the chapter with stoichiometry. If you click the interactive button, here's what happens. It shows you all of the interactives in the entire book if you're on this orange screen. But if you're in the book and you're in chapter 8 and you click the interactive button, it will only show you chapter 8 interactives. So let me demonstrate what that looks like. Back to our ebook here. So interactives from the home screen. There's all, it creates a list of all the simulations and interactive equations in the entire textbook, all of the chapters. You can see them all listed, look how many there are. There's a ton. I can see all the book all at once. I got there by clicking interactives on the home screen. But if I'm in a chapter, for example, here I am in the book. I'm in chapter 5, section 3, textbook 5.3. If I click the interactives now, I see only those simulations in this chapter. That's why this list is much shorter. So home, I get all of everything, but from somewhere in the book, like 8.1, there's only chapter 8 simulations now. Okay, so that's kind of the difference between clicking icons on the home page versus somewhere in the chapter. Some of these buttons will give you the whole book on the orange screen versus in the book, I'll get only that chapter. Okay, so here's a screenshot of what we just talked about. The same is true for, let's see, labs. If you click labs, well, let me just demonstrate. You'll also notice, if I go back a little bit, the standards button here is only on the home page. You don't see the standards button here at the top level anyway in the student book. So you can always look at standards either as a student or a teacher here from the ebook. There are also a couple links to standards on the dashboard in Portal and education.pasco.com. Okay, so again, when you click the book button, it takes you into the book. To get back to the orange screen, you just hit the home button. And if you happen to click the lab button, you choose which lab you want to go to. It takes you to the lab book. And to get back to the orange screen, you can hit home, the home button. Let me demonstrate that. So here I am at home. If I click labs, let's say I want to do a lab in chapter 5, patterns and trends. Now I'm in the lab book. It says lab 5.A. That's how I know I'm in the lab book. Also, it looks different. You can see it's got the green title and these icons here are indicating that you're in the lab book. So again, I'm looking at student view of the lab book. And I can navigate by clicking labs and go to a different chapter in the lab book, go to a different lab in the lab book, or I can go back to the book either by going home or by clicking the book icon. And then I can twirl open the section button to go to a specific section. Or I can go to the chapter by clicking the first button that comes up with the chapter title. Okay, so that's how to get between lab and text. Now there's a whole bunch of digital enhancements in the ebook. So on the student version of the book, every paragraph has this icon for read aloud. And so if you click it, it will read in English and only English. However, because this is a browser-based textbook, if you speak a language other than English and you have an extension installed, like I have the extension for Google Translate installed on my browser, I can right-click and translate to Croatian, and it instantly translates the text for you, not the audio, but the text. or whatever language I want, because this is I have the Google extension for Google Translate installed in my Google browser. So I can change into whatever language that's available in Google. For example, let's do Corsican. Let's go back to English. Yeah. So, and then and on top of that, if you have because it's a browser-based book, if you have a screen reader, it will read the audio aloud to you and if your screen reader is set to your language, you can have it read to you in your language. So again, these audio buttons are paragraph by paragraph in English. And the way that you get to the next page, you can either click with a button or touch and swipe if you have a touch screen. You can click the button on the bottom, left and right. Next page, you can use your arrow keys on the keyboard, or you can use the left and right at the top. There's a bunch of ways to get page to page here. I like using the keyboard because I tend to not have good conductivity on my screen. So that was the first page I mentioned before, that the first page of the chapter gives you a phenomenon that's going to introduce you to the content that's coming in the chapter, but also ties back into something you might already know or something that was covered previously and making it more real for students. This is the chapter preview. It lists the page, the topic of every page. Every page is its own topic. It's rare for there to be 2 pages covering the same topic. Sometimes it's unavoidable because it's chemistry, and traditionally it's very integrated. So each of these pages is a topic. If you see students struggling on a particular topic, you can go back and tell them, hey, you know what? Go back to density on page 18 and reread that page on density. Okay, and then the page after density is energy, and the page after energy is energy transformation. So everything is very as compact as possible to try to make micro lessons easier to accomplish and also making review easier to accomplish. Okay, so as students are reading, they will come across these vocabulary words. So they're in bold blue, and when you hover over, it gives the definition. And when you hover over and click, it freezes the definition until you click outside of it. So there it is, and you hit the audio button, it'll read in English. The vocabulary terms also, if you click the EN button, will be translated to Spanish in text, which is also read aloud in Spanish. Right now, we only have English and Spanish, so you can toggle between the two on vocabulary. You can also copy and paste if you wanted to, since again, it is text-based. Let me jump to my favorite example chapter for showing the digital features available, section 3, limiting reactants. Okay, so the graphics, when you hover over them, it gives a description of what's in the graphics. So this helps with low vision and those that use screen readers. It describes what is there, and also let me find, you'll also see these graphics, the interactive simulation. Now let me jump to the camera of the upside down book, and you'll notice that there are these icons also show up in the print book. So if you're looking at the print book, you can also tell when there is an interactive simulation. So you might read in the book and see, oh, there's that icon. I'm gonna go check this out in the online version of the book, and students know there's something there. So they're reading along chapter 8.1. They come across this interactive simulation button. They hover over it and it says limiting reactant simulation. So when you see something like that, a title that has the word simulation in it, that's a cue that, oh, that's one of those cool interactives where I can push dials and discover something like this. Gives them a direction, tells them what to do, tells them to try something, click the button, press play, discover, and so on. So that's when you hover over and you see simulation in the title. That's one type of simulation. There are 3 kinds of simulations. I already showed you one of them. I showed you the molecule viewer. That's one simulation. And here's what it looks like when there's a molecule available. Here's one. Okay, so I hovered over this one. It says octane. When you hover over an interactive simulation icon and it gives the name of a chemical, that is it's going to open the molecule viewer. So let's click this, and there's a molecule viewer. And look, it's octane, because that's what's in context on the page. But I can change it to whatever, like isopropyl alcohol, like I showed you before, or any other of these molecules that are available. There's even some DNA, nucleic acids in here. So there's that viewer that works throughout the book. Okay, and when you're in the lab manual, by the way, when you're looking at labs, whether they're this one, look, you can tell by looking at the picture that there's no SparkView software and there's no sensors because it's not pictured here. So it's a traditional lab. All the labs, when you hit the interactive button on the lab book, you can open the molecule viewer just like that because it's so nice to have the molecule viewer when you're actually studying the substances there in the lab, and you can bring it up and change to whatever molecule is relevant to you. So let's go back to where I was. Okay. So the second type of simulation, molecule viewer. Also, look, as they're reading, students are reading, they come across these little more paragraphs. And there's a little quick description of what it is when you hover over. And if you click it open, here's a digital enhancement. There's this extra paragraph of something that's interesting, something that's maybe connected, but of high interest. For example, algal blooms. And why does it happen and where does it come from? It's just an interesting little paragraph that students who are interested in can click on. You can also find those links in the STEM button, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. These are high interest paragraphs that are just additional content for students who are interested. Okay, so there's some more digital enhancements here. When you see all of the calculations, we always follow the rules that you want we model those rules you want students to be doing. We always put the chemical and the units, and we always track our work with dimensional analysis. We show, once we got past the sig figs lesson, we show sig figs, we show the final answer rounding to honor sig figs. So that is something that is emphasized throughout the book without fail. And here is another section called Solve Problem. These are all over the book. It gives students a structure of this is what they should be doing in their brains or on their paper as they're solving. They need to ask themselves these questions. What is the question asking for? What are my givens? What relationships do I need to know in order to answer this question? And how do I solve the problem? So these are all over the book. And again, it's showing tracking through canceling, tracking through units, tracking through the chemical that's presented, and then it shows what you get when you round for sig figs, including the units and chemical in the answer. So these solved problems are everywhere in the book, again. And here is another simulation type, the third type of simulation. So we have something that says simulation, which is an interactive kind of a gamification type of discovery. Then there's the molecule viewer is the second type of simulation. And the third is the equation builder. So how can you tell when you have, what is an equation builder? And how can you tell when you have an equation? When you hover over the inner simulation button, you see that there's a chemical equation there and it's balanced. So when you click that, it brings up this thing called the equation builder. And this happens to be the reaction that's highlighted in that part of the book. So you can bring that up anytime you see the chemical formula here when you hover, but also it is always available up here in the equations button. It will shortcut and bring open the chemistry equation builder. I am going to share a video. Hopefully it comes across decently on your screen. This is a help video that's available to you in the resources for the book. I'm going to play it kind of fast. Let me make sure that I can hear it.
The equation builder is available anywhere.
Oops, I don't hear it. Let me share the audio real quick. Hopefully I can find that. Let's see. That's interesting. Okay, well, it's telling me it's sharing the sound, but I don't hear it.
By clicking the equations button in the navigation bar.
Can you guys hear?
No matter what equation you're shown, you can always customize it. For example, if I don't want the oxygen term, I first select it and then I delete the term. If I look at the water molecule and I select the oxygen atom there in the molecule,
let me go back.
How do I use the?
Okay. Okay, and I'm playing it kind of fast. It's going to go faster than me explaining it right now in real time. But know that this resource is there, and I'm going to copy the link for it and put it in the
textbook
browser.
The equation builder is available anywhere in the Essential Chemistry book by clicking the equations button in the navigation bar. No matter what equation you're shown, you can always customize it. For example, if I don't want the oxygen term, I first select it and then I delete the term. If I look at the water molecule and I select the oxygen atom there in the molecule, I can add subscripts, remove subscripts. I can reverse the order of the atom by clicking Move Element. And I can add reactants or products. I can also navigate with the previous and next element button, going one atom at a time through the equation. If I want to go to a compound and remove a particular element from the compound, I can select Remove Element rather than deleting the entire term. Let me start with a fresh equation by deleting all of the terms, starting with a reactant. How about something a little more complicated? What if I do potassium iodide? Here's potassium, period 4. Once I select it, the flag turns pink, and I can add the element. And I have to use the crisscross rules that I know to create the compound potassium iodide. I have to know that potassium has a charge of +1, being group 1. And iodine, which is in period 5, I have to click the periods 5 through 7 button to get to iodide, select it, and add the element. And again, if I accidentally use the wrong order, I can always move elements. Next, I want to combine the potassium iodide with lead nitrate. So if I want lead, I select lead, and if I add the element, that would place the lead in the potassium iodide compound, which I don't want. So rather than, again, I don't need to delete the entire term, I can just remove the element. And now that I want a different product, I have to add reactant, I would have to add a reactant to get the plus sign to show up to add my next compound. Now, the lead to nitrate, I am going to begin with lead. And this is lead to nitrate, so I have to, in my head, know that I've got a +2 charge on the lead. Nitrate is not an element on the periodic table. It is a polyatomic ion. You won't find nitrate here. Sure, you find nitrogen and oxygen, but the compound is lead to nitrate. Therefore, you go to the compounds and ions section and select the nitrate ion and add it. Notice how it adds an O3. It does not do any crisscrossing for you. You have to do that on your own. So you would know that nitrate having a charge of -1, lead having the charge of +2, you would have to crisscross that 2 down to the nitrate. And once you do that, I've got the nitrate selected. That's why the 2 went to it. Once you crisscross, once you add a subscript to the nitrate, it automatically adds the parentheses around that ion. So this helps teach and learn about how to work with subscripts on polyatomic ions as opposed to elements. So if I were to add a subscript to lead, no parentheses are needed because it is not a polyatomic ion. Next, moving on, I have a product, potassium nitrate. So I need to go back to periods 1 through 4 to get the potassium. And again, compounds and ions through nitrate, and understanding that the charges cancel, the compound is now correct. I'm going to add product, lead to iodide. Here's my lead 2 and iodide, which crisscrosses to get a subscript of 2. And the equation builder does not tell you whether you're correct or incorrect, but it does allow you to move on and try and balance your reaction, and it shows the visualization of the law of conservation of mass. So you can see that reactants and products have equal amounts of potassium, but there's more iodine in the products than in the reactants. So when I go to the reactants, I can find the term that has the iodine, and I can change the coefficient, and that is the only choice I have here, is to change the coefficient. I can't change subscripts, so this helps me learn. When I'm balancing equations, I'm not changing subscripts. All I'm doing is changing coefficients, the number in front of the term. So I've got the iodine balanced, but I do not have equal amounts of nitrogen or oxygen in the products. So I can go to the products and start with the nitrogen term, change its coefficient, and now I can see it's balanced by adding the coefficient of 2. So another great way to use this tool for teaching and learning is to visualize the law of conservation of matter. And once you've got a balanced equation, suddenly you have access to the stoichiometry and show me how buttons, which were grayed out before because you must have a balanced equation before you can do stoichiometry. Next, let's do stoichiometry. So once you've determined the balanced equation, it will apply the mole proportion 2, 1, 2, 1, or whatever the order is in your equation down below in the same order of your equation. So potassium iodide, there are 2 moles in proportion to 1 mole of lead nitrate. The top row that is gray, those are the formula masses. The middle is the mole ratio. And the bottom is, if you had 2 moles of potassium iodide, that mass would be about 332 grams based on the formula mass. And that is calculated out for each term. Now this is also customizable. I cannot click the formula mass because it's a fixed value. But if I want to say, hey, if I had just 0.1 moles of lead 2 nitrate, how would that change the masses of all the terms if I were to react this amount of moles of that compound? So once I enter that, now I see I still have that same proportion, 2 to 1 to 2 to 1, applied across the moles, and I can see the effect on how does that mass change. It's still the same proportions, but now how much mass would I need, or how much mass of potassium iodide would I need to react with the moles of lead 2 nitrate that I have, and how much products could I get? So rather than seeing this as I can cheat with this tool, it is I've learned how to balance equations, I've learned how to do formula masses, and now I can check my answers. Or I can learn more about how proportions work. So if I were to apply 3 moles of potassium iodide, how does that change the values in all the moles and masses required for this reaction? And we can see that same proportion. When we reduce this, we get 2 to 1 to 2 to 1. And we can see the effect on the masses required or products being made with those amounts. Now, next, you could also change the grams as well. So let's say that you got 5 grams of potassium nitrate, and how would that, if you were to do the reaction, what are the outcomes? Okay, now you can see the, again, same proportion of moles applied and the matching masses you would need when those moles are applied to each of the compounds. So how did we get to these numbers? That's what the show me how button does. Now, it starts off with the first term, and you can see the color coding. It's showing how to convert using the formula mass and moles. How did we get this value, or how do you get from this value to the moles? in one term at a time. If you were to click next, it just goes to the next term through the moles first, and then through the grams. So if you're curious about how do we get the 1060 grams from 2.3 moles of lead to iodide, this is what the show me how does. Within a term, how do we calculate these individual values? So it really emphasizes the importance of the mole as the bridge, the way to get from one term to another in stoichiometry. And you might think you might be able to cheat with this tool, but you can't, because change of moles term, it's always one directional, always goes through all the moles first, then it goes to the grams. So it does not do a direct line calculation. It just goes through each of the terms one at a time. Another way that you might encounter the chemistry equation builder is if you're reading in the textbook and you come across a balanced reaction. Sometimes the interactive simulations, when hovered over, will show a balanced reaction. That means when you click it, it will bring up the exact equation balanced in the context that it is shown on the page that you're reading. So this is the methane with the oxygen reaction. And then below that, you might bring up a different simulation, whether it's the molecule interactive, or the chemistry equation builder, or a different simulation.
Okay. So you know what? There's a survey at the end of the session. So if that was really hard to follow, let me know, because I think that saves time, but I'm not sure how your experience is. Or you can let me know in chat or Q&A. Should I? Let me know if that's effective or not to show the video that fast. Anyway, that video is available in the resource. Here I am at PASCO Portal. If you go to menu and professional learning and video tutorials, the essential chemistry video tutorials are here, and you can explore them. So this is where you can find help on navigating the ebook for teachers or students that you can share with students. Then if you are not a portal user and you're looking for that help, if you go to education.pasco.com, so let me go there. Notice these are all available to me now because I logged into my portal account and I opened the ebook through portal. These are now live, but just a reminder, if you are not a portal user and you want to get to your ebooks, you go to education.pasco.com and you see the blanks here. You'll have to put your access code that came with your subscription or your purchase of Essential Chemistry or Essential Physics. And again, the codes are assigned already as either going to take you to the student edition or to the teacher edition. You enter the code and then you click go. And once you click go, it lets you in the book. But even if you don't have codes, when you go to education.pasco.com, you can still scroll down and see those videos. Navigating the ebook, using the teacher edition, the same videos that we saw on Portal for help and video guides here. So there's the equation builder video right there. Okay, so it's the same resources for the books on both education.pasco.com and Portal. So what does Portal give you? Portal just gives you the ease of use and the ability to connect with your learning management system, and it gives you the ability to have single sign-on, so students just click the button in their district app to get to your book. Same for instructors, they can just click the button to get there. There's also the same shortcuts to standards and correlations, product details like the kits for equipment. The software downloads are here on education.pasco.com as well. They're available to you once you've entered your code. And the test bank, which we're going to talk about shortly, I'm looking at the teacher's login, by the way. This test bank link is not going to be there for student view. So if students go to education.pasco.com and they have no code, they're not going to see that. The only way that you see this on education.pasco.com is if you've logged in with the teacher code, or you've opened your Pasco browser and you go to education.com, this will be available. I haven't talked about Academy yet, except for that first slide back in the beginning. I'll get back to it. Here are the equipment kits for chemistry and physics if you purchase those separately. So all that same information is there. Okay, let me go back to the presentation. So that's where the videos are. They're here in video guides on education.pasco.com, and then they're in the video tutorials from menu professional learning video tutorials when you're on Portal. Okay, so back to the presentation. Oops, that's not the presentation. I'll close that. I'll get there eventually. There it is. Okay, I'm going to run through this slide. We pretty much covered all these, but I'm going to make sure I got everything that I should have covered. And so we talked about the vocabulary terms and reading aloud and changing to Spanish. We talked about what's in the More button. We have not got to one of these yet, the test your knowledge button. So let's pace through the book and see if we can find one. So what is a test your knowledge? It's a checkpoint. So we were looking at section 8.3 in the stoichiometry chapter. So let me jump to 8.3. So you see I navigate through the book icon, and we were on, I think, the third page. Yeah. Okay. So here is the next page here. There is a test your knowledge right here at the bottom of the page. It's gray. It's going to be digital only. This is not going to be in the ebook, or sorry, the print book, and that's why it's gray, to alert you, hey, it's digital content only. So this is a checkpoint for students to see where they're at. Do they get it? Should they keep reading, or do they need to raise their hand and get help? So students should, by the time they reach the end of the page, or by the time they reach the paragraph here, they should be able to answer the question, or at least be able to set it up or think through most of it. And so they try it out. Then it gives them the answer, because this is formative assessment. We're learning, we're forming our understanding, we're checking our understanding before we keep going. This is the formative assessment that's built throughout the book, all over the place. So it shows them step by step, how do we get through this problem? Again, reinforcing the good practices with problem solving of identifying the question, putting the relationships, putting the units and the chemical rounding for sig figs, and so on. So these are sprinkled throughout, again, test your knowledge questions. Then we talked about the 3 kinds of interactive simulations, including the simulations that say simulation in them, the ones that you can operate. There are 4 different activities that have formal assignments written around with step-by-step instructions and questions. So when you come across them, you might want to create your own and model after them. And by the way, all the resources, I haven't shown you yet the teacher edition, but you'll see that every assignment, every lab, every piece of content we give you is editable. So you can either download the PDF or assign the PDF in your management system, or whatever system you use to deliver assignments to students. You can do the PDF. You can download the docx and edit it and make it your own. You can use push to Google Classroom with the Google Slides version, where students can't accidentally change the content, the original content, but they can put in their own answers, and more to come on that in a moment. But anyway, so the 3 kinds of simulations, there's the ones that are sometimes supported with assignments. There are the molecular models, or the molecule viewer, and then there's the equation builder. We haven't got to take a quiz yet. Let's look at what that is. Okay, so at the end of a section, here we are at section review. The end of a section gives the summary, standard, right? There's also a section that lists all the vocabulary words that were in that section. As a review, make sure you know what these are before we go on to the next session, right? There's also some review questions. Now, I would not assign these as homework to students because the answers are given. I wouldn't assign as homework that they have to write the answer and turn in and show you that they did the work. I would assign it as, you're working on this now, and it's another formative assessment. Where are you at in your understanding? Are you ready to move on? Which question did you struggle with? What doesn't make sense right now? Because this is, again, there for the student. This is the student view to see what is that concept. Do I get the concept? Am I able to answer this question? This is the low risk formative, before we really, if you want to assign points to something or really challenge and make sure that they can do without support. So the take a quiz is that here we are at the end of a section, section 3. At the very bottom of every section, there's a take a quiz button. And when you click the take a quiz button, it brings up this quiz. Now, here is where I would assign as homework. And the good news here is, not only does it not give the answers, that's asterisk, not give the answers, it gives a different quiz to each student. Every time you click the take a quiz button, it generates a different quiz. It might be 4 questions out of a set of 12 maybe that get reordered or reorganized. So the likelihood of 2 students getting the same quiz is very, very low, especially if you have a quantitative question. It's almost 0 that 2 students will get the same quiz. For example, here's this question. Consider this reaction. Number 1, it's got the methane reaction. It wants to know what's limiting reactants. And how much product do you make if you have 6.5 moles of each reactant? So that number 6.5 moles, we're going to look for this question again. We're going to regenerate the quiz and see if we can find this question with 6.5 moles. Again, the methane reaction, 6.5 moles of each reactant. Let's try again. Let's see. See, I don't see the methane reaction this time, so I have to generate a new one. There's the methane reaction, but look, it's 8.9 moles now. So not only is the question in a different order, not only did I have to take 3 tries to get the same question in the first place, but when it does come back, I have a different value as the given. And then all of these values here in the answers are things that students might come up with if they accidentally flip the mole ratio, or they put the wrong formula mass, or they're all potential answers that students might get if they make a mistake, and then you can identify the mistake that they're making. So again, no two students are going to get the same quiz here. So students can generate a quiz, and notice it gives a score of 0% because no questions are answered. I'm going to just randomly answer and see what happens when I score this. Okay, so I randomly answered. I'm going to hit score. And by the way, I'm going to put my name. Score. I got 60%. That's better than half without even trying. Yeah, that's not good. You're going to want students to aim for a score of 100%. And again, this is another formative assessment with a little bit more responsibility here. There's a little bit more at stake. They have to get to 100% to show that they've got mastery. So what do they do here? Well, they can just hit new and try again, but they can also hit the show solution button, because remember, the goal is to learn. So we support the student here to show when they got an answer right, and we give an explanation. And when they got an answer wrong, we highlight the correct answer and we give the explanation so that students can learn. Where did I make my mistake? Oh, I did it. I flipped it over again. That's right. Okay, I need to remember to not do that. So then they hit new again, and then they can try again and keep trying. So this is how I would assign this assignment to students. Again, every student, this is infinite. So just like the infinite test bank, a bunch of different questions can come up, and no two students get in the same quiz. So once students get their 100%, let me just do another scoring here. I got 0 correct this time. But hey, let's say I'm going to turn that in. So then I'd hit the print button, and I would save it as a PDF and then save it as the student. That's what I would do, is save it so that I can download it. And the teacher would probably give the direction of put your name or your initials or period or whatever the teacher says, save it, and then I can submit that digitally through whatever system that you use. And that's how you work with the infinite quizzes at the end of a section. And again, every section and every chapter has this option. Okay, so now that was the take a quiz. Well, let's jump to the end of chapter problems. So if I hit the problems button, it jumps to the end of chapter. So first it starts with vocabulary. It's very easy. It's just matching. I mean, it's vocab, right? It's memorization. So it's easy. The next section, and it's by, what I mean by section is the type of question. So there's the vocabulary section, which gives a vocab for 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3. There are 3 sections in chapter 8. Then it moves on to conceptual questions. So now we've got chili peppers showing up. And these questions, students cannot see the answers for these questions. The closest they get is you've got matching on vocab, and that's it. That's the closest they're going to see to answers. Teacher edition only has answers to the concepts to the end of chapter questions. So these chili peppers mean something. If you see no chili peppers like the vocab, that means these are easy. These are memorization based, easiest you can do. If you see 1 chili pepper a little harder, 2 a little bit more, 3 is the hardest. So it's like a 0 through 4 difficulty scale in difficulty of the thinking level that would be required to get to an answer there. Equation builder, yeah, we got that. Okay. Well, so the 4 steps to the equation builder. Again, I put the link to that video of how do I use this equation builder. It's watch it at 1 speed when you get a chance. But you could see that it looks like you can cheat with it at first, but when you actually see how it works, you can't cheat with it. You have to know what you're doing to cheat with it. And in fact, I cheat with it all the time. And the goal is to get students to cheat with it too, because they can check their answers If they know, but they have to first of all get the right crisscross, because remember, it does not tell you if you're right or wrong on the crisscross. They have to get it right in order to balance it, and it doesn't let them go to stoichiometry until they've balanced it. So you have to know what you're doing to advance. It is a teaching and learning tool, so you can see that you can start showing it first when you first show formulas. How do I make formulas? And you can use the equation builder as a way for students to test. Am I doing this right? You can use it to teach how do ions work, how do polyatomic ions work when you're writing the formulas. What's the parentheses for? What's a coefficient for versus a subscript? So teaching in little chunks, and then you can teach the balancing chunk. And then when they're ready for stoichiometry, you move on from balancing there. So it's a really neat tool. And I wish there was something like this when I was in the classroom, because um, sometimes visualizing, especially that table that shows the proportions, that's huge. Showing the mole proportion is the key for students to understand how to work with stoichiometry, even when they get to gas stoichiometry and solutions, which they struggle with. Getting that mole proportion is big. We saw the molecule viewer. You can change the visualization and also look at the charge distribution around. And again, it's available everywhere. Now we're going to look at the teacher ebook. So you've been wondering probably, how do I get all the assignments? How do I get everything? Two different ways. You can either get from Portal. And by the way, if your IT has set you up on the back end, if you're a Portal subscriber, you can have a single sign-on to the teacher book, or to the Portal, to Portal itself, on your Launchpad. Or you can go to portal.pasco.com and just click the Launch Teacher ebook button. Let me see if I can get you there. So back on your dashboard, here you just sign in, you land here. If you go to menu, curriculum, essential science, and pick your book, and again, that's over here, Launch the Teacher ebook. So let's do that. And remember, the other way that you get there, let's say you're not a Portal subscriber. If you go to education.pasco.com, you can put that code in, and let me close these extra windows here. Put in that code, and then you'll see this at education.pasco without going through Portal. So then you can just hit open book. And by the way, eventually we're going to get to Test Bank and Academy. These two buttons are here on education.pasco.com. I'm probably going to get there through Portal, but there they are without Portal. So either way, you're going to get to this landing page. So if you're on education.pasco.com and you're a teacher and you click open book, there's that same splash page, same home screen. You get the same place. You can tell this is teacher because there's a test bank icon. So this is the teacher edition when you have test bank at home. Also, you can tell it's a teacher edition because if you click the book link, there's this big yellow bar here on the left and on the bottom of every single page, whether there's content or not in it. And there's always content in it if you're in a chapter page. So here we are, page 1, chapter 1. Left side is kind of an overview. On the first page, it's an overview of what's coming up in the lessons. And by the way that we divide lessons in essential chemistry is by sections. So if chapter 1 has 2 sections, there's going to be 2 lessons. If chapter 2 has 3 sections, there's going to be 3 lessons. And what you find in a lesson, so here's just the study guide page again. I forgot to show you at the bottom of the study guide page. As you go down here, it not only gives you the learning objectives and what labs go in this section, but it also shows you all the vocabulary terms, which you can click on to freeze. And that's for the whole chapter, right? And we saw that at the end of each section, it kind of summarizes which terms were there. So this is the summary page again, doesn't have any teacher content. But now that we're in section, the first page of section 1.1, look at all this teacher stuff. And again, it's yellow and it says teacher resources. So we're in the teacher book. Similar navigation up here. I can jump to whatever page. I can use the search button to find content like molecules. And it just starts a word search for you and it highlights a paragraph that you click. I've got the equations, elements button. By the way, I forgot to show you what elements does. It just takes you to a periodic table, which also is available in students. It's got the ions, it's got constants. It's something, this is what you would give students when they take a test. This is their I don't want to say cheat sheet, but like the guide that students are usually given. They often have the constants and ions and periodic table. So going back in appendix, by the way, I might as well click it while I'm here. When you go to appendix, that's where you can get to the glossary, and index, and another place to get to the standards are a little bit more buried, but there they are. And on the appendix, that's where you'll find things like pH scale and indicators, constants, quantities, all there in the appendix. So sorry I jumped around there. I just had to remember to cover that. Let me go back to where we were. We were talking about the resources here. So this is section 10.3 in the teacher book. At the beginning of this section, so I jumped here because I had clicked the link to go to this bent molecule. But here's the beginning of section 10.3. I can tell because it's a green header. That's the beginning. And it's starting section 10.3. The left side contents here, I'm going to just scroll to here. They're the same throughout the section, so it doesn't matter what page you're on. In section 10.3, you're going to see the same resources. You've got a lesson plan. And the lesson plan, it gives you the objectives, the stuff that's available to you, what's in the slides, some sample assessments, the 3 dimensions that are covered in this section, and also some ideas for getting the whole group engaged, getting your students engaged, and some highlights like digital resources. That is editable. Again, like I said, all the resources are in an editable form. So here's the Word doc for that if you need to edit it to make it custom for your district's whatever they require for your lesson plans. Slide presentation here, there's the editable slide PPTX editable format. At the bottom here, we've got, I'm sorry, let me finish going through this before I go to the bottom. Then here in the student assignments, here is a shortcut to the lab that goes in this section. And all it does is it takes you directly to lab 10B, which you could either click to go straight to the navigation. And now you're in the teacher lab book, and now you got all the resources for the lab here on the left side in the teacher book. You've got these videos. There's a video if it has PASCO stuff in it. Some of them might not have videos because they're traditional, but if there's PASCO stuff, there'll be a video. There's lab preparation, like how to make, if there's solutions, how to make the solutions and so on, and how much to make, and everything that you need to know ahead of time to be successful and getting this lab to work. Sometimes that means, how do I put together the pieces? And more on lab when we talk about lab in part 2, if you're going to join me for part 2 in a little bit. Then student assignments. So this one is a little light on assignments. It just has vocabulary, which we know is very low level way to assess student knowledge, like the lowest level that you can. This is not typical. Usually we have, like here, we have a lab. So that's a higher level assessment of student knowledge, but there'll be assignments too, like practice and simulation support. There's the answer keys, a summary of the lesson, and then some tips on every single page, a tip of what content is on that page, and sometimes it's associated with the slide that's in the slide deck. It gives you demonstration ideas here too, so be sure to look at these ideas. Sometimes there's slides at the bottom, so here I am at the next page. There's a bunch of slides on the left here. Most of the time you'll see slides at the bottom when it's quantitative. So now, how do you get these resources to students? So this is the student assignment section. Well, again, it depends on your setup at your district. There's a whole bunch of different ways. The minimum, the way that works for anybody, like minimal, is you can download when you click these, either PDF or doc, it'll download it to your local device, your local drive, and then you can upload it to your system and distribute whatever way you distribute. Or if you click the Google slide, let's look at what that looks like. If you click Google slide, you can preview what that would look like. And then if you like this and you use Google Classroom, you can push it to your students if you make your own copy to your own account and do that through Google slide. Now this, sorry, through Google Classroom, but this is the simplest way to do it. Not simplest, but like the I can't find the right word. Least technology way to do it. There are easier ways through Portal, but this is the way. If you don't have Portal, you would have to make a copy of this and then share through Google Classroom if you have that. Otherwise, you would download the PDF or doc and then upload it to your whatever system you use. Now, if you are using Portal, there you could do the same thing. You could download everything. So I'll show how that would be done. So let's look at, but what you would do is you would use the View Chapter Resources button, this yellow button that gets your attention here. This is the button you use if you're using Portal and you're ready to send stuff to your students and you know that you're in Chapter 11. This is what we're looking at very first thing. we were looking at energy and changes of state. And let's say you want all the resources. One thing you can do is click all the student files, and maybe later you'll download the teacher files. But for now, you can just click the student files and get them all, or maybe you just want to get a few things. And right now, it's not letting you download everything at once because this is a simulation and it's not something you can download. Once I unclick that, now it'll let me just download to my computer, or I can hit the Google Classroom and I can push the assignment to Google Classroom. It'll ask me to log into my Google Classroom. And so if you're familiar with Google Classroom, it'll get you to that place to where you can add assignments automatically. So you can either go the download route, or you can, if you have your LMS, if your IT has set up your LMS with us, you can get the assignments through your module viewer if it's Canvas, for example. And so that's like directly getting assignments. I'm afraid I can't show that because I don't have a teacher account on an LMS. And again, go to the PASCO, go to help.pasco.com and click PASCO Portal and go to For Instructors and go to the very bottom there to see what it says for your learning management system of how to get those files or the student work shared with students. So I don't have time to go through all of these, but again, that's where it's at. Help.pasco.com. I'm going to put that link right there in chat again, so it's easy for you to get to if you're interested in looking at that. Okay, let's see. So that's how you get to teach your ebook. The resources, again, you can download or use Portal, depending on what your access level is. Your education.pasco.com, again, you put in your teacher license and it's going to get you to the teacher resources for whatever number of years. Something that I want to point out that teachers often forget about is this is fair use. If you're using for your teaching in your classroom and you're not profiting off of it, you can copy all of the images in the book, even the animated GIFs, and put them in your own presentation or make your own slides in the presentation that we made for you or whatever. So here's an animated GIF in my presentation. Let me show you how I did that. So this was from more paragraph on page 285. Let me go to the book. So page 285, it doesn't matter whether I'm in student teacher, the more paragraph is going to show up either way. So I'm in the teacher edition here. And here's that more paragraph. When I hover over this image, it's an animated GIF. All images, whether they're animated GIFs or static like this, if you right click and do copy or save, either one, you can get that image and then paste it into your document, either your PowerPoint or your DocX assignment that you're making, or maybe you're making your own test questions and you want to add these pictures in there. Speaking of tests, what is the test bank like? Okay, remember the infinite questions where we looked at the take quiz and the quiz questions came up and all the numbers changed and no two students can have the same thing, the same type of technology is used in the test bank. So when you're a teacher and you're building tests, let me show you, I'm going to bring up a video again. It's going to play at 1.5 speed again to show how the test bank works. I guess first let me show you how to get there. So if you're at education.pasco.com and you go and you're logged into the teacher edition, there's the test bank. You just click the test bank button and it will take you to the test bank. Okay, I'm already signed in, and there is in the video it'll show how to sign in. Okay, if you are going through Portal, here I am on the dashboard. If I go to menu, again, curriculum, essential science, and you will find it here, launch test bank. So let me show you a video of how the test bank works. And by the way, you can download for to be able to import to your LMS, your learning management system, to be able to do online tests. There is an option for that at the end when you're ready to print your test. So let me show this video again at 1.5 speed.
From the home screen, let's take a look at the test bank. The test bank icon gives you access to PASCO's assessment generator, where you can generate and store custom assessments. The first time you log into the test bank, create an account, and write down the test bank user key it assigns you so you can access your saved tests in the future. To create a test, fill in the instructor, course, and description fields. You can customize the difficulty of the questions in your test using 3 levels. 1 is for easy, and up to 3 for difficult. Let's design a test for Chapter 4. Choose the number of questions from each section you would like in your test. In the test review screen, you can change the order of questions, delete questions, swap questions with easier or harder questions, or add new questions. When you're ready to build your new test, you can choose the number of test versions to create. Each version will have the same number of questions in the same order, but with different answer choice order, and for some quantitative questions, different numerical values in the question prompt and answer choices. Now that
I'm going to pause right here and show the QTI here, the downloads. This is what you would choose for if you have a learning management system that supports online tests.
the test has been built, you can preview the test and print it directly from your browser. The solution set for each test is available in a quick grading-friendly format, as well as a full solutions format. Each test you create is stored with your teacher account and can be accessed using the My Templates link. From this list, you can view tests, edit tests, generate more versions of the same test, or delete tests. Thank you for watching this essential chemistry video.
Okay, so that video, where did I get that from? That was in menu, curriculum, or sorry, not curriculum, professional development video tutorials. And that was actually in the essential chemistry video tutorials and the teacher edition. It was part of the teacher edition video. So again, and those are also available on education.pasco.com for non-portal users. Okay, so again, infinite test bank. That's how we get individual, well, even if you want to get down to the individual level tests, like a student has to do a makeup test and you're worried about maybe their friend shared what's on the test, you can just generate another version for them. Next, let me get back to the PowerPoint and make sure I'm covering everything I'm supposed to. Okay. So in case I forgot to cover anything, here's the stuff you're going to find on the teacher ebook. Remember the yellow sidebar. Lesson plans are there, the slides are there, the student work is there, and answer keys are there for teachers to share with students and for their own use in editable and PDF formats. I showed you Portal. Again, depending on how your system is set up, you're going to see something similar when you navigate through your management system, your whatever you use for content delivery in your classroom when you go through Portal. If you've signed, again, talk to IT to get that linked up if it's not already, if you're a Portal user and you don't already see it there in your resources. The lab book is the same. You have yellow on the teacher edition, no yellow on the student edition. The teacher edition has a lab preparation, tells you how to make everything. It also has a ton of resources for lab, including like a picture of all the lab equipment and a cheat sheet on how to use SparkView when you've got a sensor-based lab, and videos to help you decide whether you want to do the lab. Maybe you're not sure about this lab. You're like, this looks like it's really long. Watch the video on the teacher side to see if it's something that you might want to do. The labs also come with a slide set. At least every time you do look at labs, at least look at the first slide after the opening slide. Look at the think about it slide. These are really cool thought problems that you might just want to, like, maybe you're not going to do the lab, but it's something fun to do during class. And it asks this question that is testing students' knowledge of the concept, but also having them think outside the box and sometimes looking at phenomenon. This one's a marshmallow stoichiometry s'more question here. The lab directions and places for students to write answers are all available there, along with answer keys and sample data if it's a SparkView sensor-based lab. Also safety, like for example, safety quiz is available there in the teacher materials, and safety rules and general lab safety presentation for you to begin your year with. Again, all the sensor-based labs will have the SparkView sample data and a video to show or talk about setup for, it's mostly talking about the setup for the lab. I showed you how to get to the teacher ebook via Portal and what happens when you land on education.pasco.com. Showed you how to get to the test bank. And the video was available there again in video resources. So this slide might be helpful to you until you get used to how the tests come out. I created a color code of where, like as you're building your test, you're like, where is this going to show up on my output? So this slide will help you see, oh, when I put my name in, it goes here. Course name, that's this. So course name, I think of that as the chapter and test name. The student instructions will appear right below course name, and then name for test versions appears over here, and then it has the date. PASCO Academy. PASCO Academy is some content that is available to you, whether you, again, are in Portal. So if I go to Menu, Curriculum, PASCO Academy, or if I'm not a Portal user and I'm on Education, there's the direct link to Academy. It looks different, but it's the same stuff, okay? So what Academy is, as I mentioned before, it's all of the years worth of labs for a standard traditional chemistry course, but you have access through Portal, you have access through all 3 subjects. If you're not Portal, if you're using education.pasco.com, you have just the chemistry one. So here's what it looks like. Let's look at the stoichiometry thing we were just looking at, stoichiometry and reactions. So again, I mentioned this was during the pandemic. We made these videos so that you can have students not in the classroom be able to do labs. So maybe you use this on a sub day, like you were out sick, but you got sick. You're supposed to do a lab. Hey, maybe you can do this version of lab with a sub. So instant sub plans. It comes with videos for the student and a video for the teacher. Watch the teacher video first to see if you like it, to see what's going on in the lab, and then first share the first student video. It shows myself and Roger, my colleague, or another colleague. We're doing the lab like we're lab partners and we're following all the safety rules and everything. So that you'd watch this for students, they would be as if they were doing the lab themselves, like we were their lab partner, and they can record the data. We share the data file if there is one. So here it is, sample data file, that same data that you see in the video. And then after the students think through, do the work, they answer the questions, you collect their work, maybe you score it, maybe you decide you want to show the student follow-up. So this is for them after they've given it their best shot. Let's see how they did. We go over the most challenging questions or the frequently asked questions for students here in this to be shared with students. And again, the teacher side is the one for you to decide whether or not this is something you want to do. And here is all the files that you need. It's almost exactly the same as the labs that you find in the Essential Chemistry Lab Manual. However, we changed the answers and everything to match exactly what you see in this version of the video, which is meant to be shared with students. So that's why it's slightly different, but it's the same exact lab, same concept and everything, just different answers and such. Okay, so that's what Portal is. And I think we're out of time. So if you need to go, feel free to go. I'm going to wrap up here in my presentation. My alarm is going off, so apologies if you can hear it. So there are more resources available. I think I went over all of these, but do visit education.pasco.com and click around. Also, even at just pasco.com, click around. For example, look at the experiment library, look to see what resources are there. And one final word about Portal. Something I really like about Portal is when you go to menu and you go to support and product search. Let's say that you've got a sensor, you don't know what to do with it. You can always put in the sensor name, wireless temperature sensor. And there's the version of it, and click it, it shows you the picture to see if you're looking at the right one. It tells you all about it, all the specs. You keep scrolling, it gives you the manual, also some videos that go along with that sensor, and then the experiments that go along with that sensor at the different levels. And then you can click on them. So I wanted to make sure I showed that. And with that, let's wrap. I'm going to wrap this up. Please contact your local PASCO rep if you need if you have any questions about any of the products that you saw that you were interested in purchasing or have questions about, or even if you want to talk to teacher support or get in touch with me, you can always go here and ask your questions there. And with that, I'm going to wrap up.